My name is Jonathan Wright, and I thought I had it all figured out. Until one fateful day, everything came crashing down. I'd worked at Drexler Tech for over 5 years, climbing the corporate ladder with dedication and precision. I was the senior project manager, known for my problem-solving skills and my knack for getting things done. On paper, my career was golden. I had a steady paycheck, a comfortable office, and the respect of my peers. At least, that's what I thought. It was a Tuesday morning, just like any other, when the email hit my inbox. Urgent meeting with CEO, conference room A, 9 a.m. I didn't think much of it at first. The CEO, Edward Drexler, had always been a figurehead, a distant presence in the company. Meetings with him were rare, and usually just formalities. But something felt off about this one. I arrived early, my mind racing through the possibilities. Was I being promoted? Was there a new project on the horizon? I wasn't prepared for what happened next. As I stepped into conference room A, I noticed the atmosphere was different. There was no warmth, no casual conversation. Just Edward Drexler, seated at the head of the table, looking uncharacteristically stern. Alongside him was the vice president, Karen Wells, a woman known for her sharp tongue and even sharper ambition. "Jonathan," Edward said, his voice cold, "I'm afraid we have to let you go." Effective immediately. I froze. My heart sank to my stomach. What? But why? I stammered, struggling to comprehend the situation. I had been a loyal employee, and I'd just completed a major project ahead of schedule. There had to be some mistake. Karen didn't even look up from her tablet. "Don't take it personally, Jonathan. The dumb and poor get the axe," she said dismissively, her tone dripping with contempt. I stared at her, unable to process her words. This wasn't just a firing, it was an execution. A professional and personal betrayal, all wrapped into one. My mind raced, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. Had I missed something? Was there a memo I didn't get? Edward, still as cold as ever, simply nodded. "It's done. Pack your things." Before I could say another word, the door to the conference room opened. I turned to see Claire, the CEO's secretary, rushing in. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with panic. She didn't even stop to acknowledge the two of them before walking straight toward me. "Jonathan, I need to talk to you." "It's urgent," Claire said, her voice trembling. The tension in the room thickened. I had no idea what was happening, but I could sense that whatever it was big. Her sudden appearance was too important to ignore. Edward and Karen exchanged a glance, clearly irritated by the interruption. But they said nothing. Claire's eyes darted around the room nervously, and then, in a hushed tone, she whispered, "Jonathan, you've been fired because of a mistake." "No, a deliberate mistake. Someone made a huge error, and they've been trying to cover it up, but you're the one they decided to blame." My heart skipped a beat. Deliberate mistake? Cover up? I couldn't wrap my mind around it. Who's responsible for this? I demanded, but Claire shook her head. "I can't say too much, but I'll be in touch. Just be careful. This isn't over." With that, she turned and rushed out of the room as quickly as she had entered. The door clicked shut behind her, leaving me standing there in stunned silence. The room felt suffocating, the words still hanging in the air. What did she mean by that? Edward and Karen exchanged uncomfortable glances. They both stood, signaling that the meeting was over. "You should leave now, Jonathan," Karen said coldly, offering no further explanation. I was still in shock as I grabbed my bag and walked out of the room, but as I passed the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that Claire's words were just the beginning. Something bigger was at play, and I was determined to find out what it was. I left the building that day feeling like my world had just been ripped apart. The cold, sterile corporate lobby seemed to mock me as I walked through it, my footsteps echoing in the emptiness. I'd been fired, with no explanation, no chance to defend myself. And yet, something about the way Claire had rushed into that room and spoken to me, her urgency, her fear, made it clear that there was more to this story. I tried to focus, to process the situation, but the more I thought about it, the less sense it made. Claire had been adamant about a deliberate mistake, a cover-up. Who would have something to gain by using me as a scapegoat? My phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling me from my thoughts. It was a text from my former colleague, Mark. "Mark, heard what happened. You okay?" I paused for a moment, considering how much to share. Mark was a good guy, but he was still an outsider compared to the higher-ups. Sharing too much could get him tangled in something dangerous. Me? Not sure yet. They just kicked me out with no reason. You know anything? Mark's reply came almost immediately. Mark, not much. But I heard some weird stuff going on with the budget, and I overheard Karen talking about some dead weight being removed. I think they're cleaning house, but I don't know why you'd be caught up in it. My stomach twisted. Dead weight. The words stung more than I wanted to admit. Had I really been that disposable to them? I'd given everything to Drexler Tech, my time, my energy, my trust. And this was how I was repaid? I walked to my car, not even bothering to check the rearview mirror. I didn't care if anyone saw me leaving. But as I slid into the driver's seat, my thoughts raced. Who was behind this? Was it really just about the budget, or was there something more personal going on here? I had no answers, just more questions. As I sat in the car, trying to gather my thoughts, I received another message. This time, it was from Claire. Claire, we need to talk. Meet me at the diner on 5th Street. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Don't tell anyone. I stared at the text for a long time. This was it, the chance I needed to get some real answers. But there was a risk. If Edward or Karen found out I was meeting with Claire, there could be serious consequences. Still, I couldn't sit around waiting for answers to fall into my lap. I had to take action. I decided to go. The diner on 5th Street was a small, greasy spoon kind of place. The kind of diner you went to when you needed to think, not when you were looking for good food. But that's exactly what I needed. A place where I could clear my mind and hopefully get some clarity on the situation. When I arrived, I spotted Claire immediately. She was sitting in a booth near the back, nervously glancing around as if she was expecting someone to come through the door at any moment. I slid into the seat across from her, trying to mask my nervousness. You came, Claire said, her voice a little shaky. She seemed out of breath, like she had been running. Listen, Jonathan, I didn't want to get involved, but this is bigger than just you. I leaned forward, my eyes locked onto hers. What are you talking about? You said there was a cover-up. A deliberate mistake. What's going on? Claire looked around the diner again, her hand trembling as she took a sip from her coffee. I don't know everything, but I overheard a conversation in the office a few days ago. Edward and Karen were talking about an illegal deal, something shady with the company's finances. There's a project, a major one, that's been intentionally mismanaged, and they're blaming you for it. They're setting you up to take the fall. They need someone to scapegoat. I blinked, my heart racing. But why? Why me? What do they have to gain by getting rid of me? She paused, her eyes darting to the window, as if she was afraid someone would be watching us. You don't understand. Edward is in deep with some people. People I don't think you want to mess with. This whole thing, it's not just about business. It's personal for him. He's trying to cover his own tracks, and you're the easiest target. My mind was spinning. So you're telling me I've been fired for something I didn't even do? And now I'm supposed to just take the fall for some corporate mess I had nothing to do with? Claire nodded, her expression filled with guilt. I'm sorry, Jonathan. I really am. But this isn't over. You have to fight back. You can't let them destroy you like this. I felt a burning anger rise in my chest. I had worked so hard for this company. I had sacrificed so much. And now, I was being thrown away like yesterday's trash. The injustice of it all made my blood boil. What can I do? I asked, my voice quieter now, but filled with determination. I don't know yet, Claire said. But I'll help you. I have information. Things I've seen. I'll share them with you. But you need to be careful. Edward's not someone you want to cross. I looked at her, feeling both grateful and terrified. There was no turning back now. This wasn't just about my career anymore. It was about survival. As we talked more, I could feel the weight of what was coming. Claire wasn't just offering information. She was offering a lifeline. The question was, could I trust her completely? The following days were a blur. I couldn't focus at home, couldn't concentrate at the gym, and barely managed to keep my mind occupied with anything other than the mess that had become my life. But as the hours passed, one thing became clear. I had no choice but to confront this head-on. If I let it fester, if I allowed Edward and Karen's conspiracy to go unchecked, it wouldn't just cost me my career, it might cost me everything. Claire had told me that she'd help. But what exactly did that mean? She'd dropped a bombshell, but I needed more. Concrete evidence, a plan. I couldn't just walk into their offices and demand answers. That would make me look like a desperate, disgruntled ex-employee. But what if there was a way to turn the tables? I decided to meet with Claire again, this time at a different location, somewhere less likely to attract attention. We agreed to meet at a small cafe on the outskirts of town, a quiet spot that offered anonymity. I arrived first, sitting at a corner table, the cool air of the morning mingling with my thoughts. When Claire walked in, her face was pale, her hands clasped tightly around her purse. She was visibly anxious, her eyes darting around as she approached. "You look worse than I feel," I said, trying to lighten the mood, though my voice lacked its usual edge. "I know. This is bigger than I thought," she whispered as she sat down across from me, glancing over her shoulder one last time before speaking. "They've noticed me asking questions. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to help you, Jonathan. If they figure out I'm the one feeding you information," her voice trailed off, and I could see the fear in her eyes. I leaned in, keeping my voice low. "You've already helped me more than anyone else has. But I need more. You told me Edward's mixed up in something illegal, that he's trying to cover up. I need specifics. What's going on, Claire? What's this about a mismanaged project?" Claire hesitated for a moment, wringing her hands together. "The project, it's called Project Nexus. It's supposed to be this massive new product, something Drexler Tech was hoping would launch us into the next decade of innovation. But there's been a huge problem with the budget. The numbers don't add up, and I've seen some documents that suggest they've been inflating costs and using it as a front to funnel money. Edward's been siphoning off funds for months." I felt a cold chill run through me. "And you're saying I got caught in the middle of this?" Claire nodded slowly, her eyes downcast. "I don't think it was personal at first, but now they're trying to cover it all up. They're blaming you for a failure that was never your fault. They need someone to take the fall, and you're the easiest target." I slammed my fist onto the table, drawing the attention of a few patrons. But I didn't care. This was it. The truth had finally come out, and it was worse than I could have imagined. "I can't just sit back and let them do this to me," I said, my voice low but filled with conviction. "I need to expose this. I need proof." Claire's eyes widened. "You can't just go in there guns blazing, Jonathan. They'll bury you. Edward is connected. His influence is everywhere. You need a plan." I ran my fingers through my hair, frustration mounting. "I can't just do nothing, Claire. I've worked my entire life to get where I am, and they're going to throw me under the bus just like that." I snapped my fingers. "No way." Claire bit her lip, thinking. Then, her face softened, a flicker of hope returning to her eyes. "There's a chance. There's a file, one of the internal documents, that could prove everything. It's in the system, locked behind a password, but I think I can get it for you." My heart raced. "How? You don't have access to those files anymore, right?" "I can get access, but I need you to be careful," Claire said. "If you go through the back door of their system and take that file, they'll never know it was me. You'll have the proof you need to expose them. But once you do this, you can't back out." My mind whirled with the implications. This was it. The proof I needed, the truth I could take to the authorities, to the press, to everyone who needed to know about Edward's betrayal. "I'm in," I said, my voice steady now. "Get me the file, Claire. I'll take it from there." She nodded, but there was something in her eyes, a hint of uncertainty, as if she wasn't sure this was going to work. But she trusted me, and for the first time in days, I felt like I had a shot at winning this. The next few days were a blur of preparation. Claire had set everything in motion, giving me the details on how to access the internal system. She walked me through the process step by step, explaining what I needed to do in order to avoid detection. She even managed to get me a temporary login, one that would give me the access I needed to download the file. The plan was simple. I would log into the system, retrieve the file, and get out without leaving a trace. Easy enough, right? But as the day of the heist arrived, I found myself questioning everything. Could I really go through with this? What if I got caught? What if I lost everything? My career, my reputation, my freedom. The stakes were higher than they had ever been before, and every part of me wanted to back out. But then I remembered Claire's words, the way she'd looked at me with both fear and determination. She was risking everything to help me. If she could do that, the least I could do was follow through. I dressed in a suit, trying to look as inconspicuous as possible. The office would be quiet in the late afternoon, which gave me a small window of opportunity. I would have to move quickly, no room for error. When I arrived at Drexler Tech, the building was almost deserted. I made my way through the familiar halls, trying to ignore the gnawing feeling of dread in my stomach. Each step felt like a countdown to something inevitable. I reached the server room and quickly entered the login details Claire had provided. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I waited for the system to accept my credentials. A moment later, The screen flashed green, signaling that I was in. I moved fast, pulling up the file directory Claire had mentioned. There it was, Project Nexus, Financial Overview. I clicked on the file and began downloading it, my heart pounding in my chest. I had done it. I had the evidence. But as the download finished, the door to the server room creaked open. The door creaked open, and my heart nearly stopped. I froze, my fingers still poised over the mouse as I heard the soft shuffle of footsteps approaching. There was no time to panic, no time to think. The file was nearly downloaded, only a few seconds left. I quickly minimized the screen and slid my finger to the exit button, praying to any higher power that the system wouldn't register my intrusion. But before I could click, I heard the unmistakable sound of shoes tapping on the floor. It was Edward. "Jonathan," he said, his voice smooth and cold, as though he were speaking to an old friend rather than an enemy. "I didn't expect to see you here. What are you doing in the server room?" I turned slowly, keeping my face neutral, just making sure everything's running smoothly. Edward narrowed his eyes, scanning the room as though looking for some sign of guilt. He leaned casually against the doorframe, his posture deliberately relaxed. Too relaxed. He was a man who knew he held power, and he wasn't afraid to flaunt it. "Well," he continued, "I'm sure you know better than to mess around with things you don't understand, Jonathan. The company's had some changes, and you, my friend, aren't exactly part of those changes." I knew what he was implying. The conversation was his way of sending a message, asserting dominance. He had no intention of letting me leave this building with any evidence. I kept my voice calm, refusing to show any weakness. "I'm just trying to keep things in order, Edward. You know how it is." Edward stepped forward, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my skin crawl. "I know exactly how it is. But you, Jonathan, you're not needed here anymore. The dead weight needs to be trimmed. You're a relic of a different time." His words hit me like a slap in the face. But I couldn't let it show. I had to stay focused. I had the file, proof of everything he'd been hiding. "I think you're underestimating me," I said, my voice low but firm. "I'm not the one who's out of place here, Edward." Edward smirked, clearly amused. "Is that so? I think you'll find, Jonathan, that the only thing you've got left is a few pathetic files and a dream that was never meant to be. You're nothing more than an inconvenience." I could feel the pressure mounting. The file was everything. If I could just make it out of here, if I could just get to a place where I could expose the truth, everything would change. But as I stood there facing Edward, the weight of his words and the danger of the situation began to close in on me. Edward's eyes flicked to the computer screen, and for a split second, I thought he might see the download progress bar still sitting there, like a ticking time bomb. I quickly pressed the X button to close the window, but the seconds felt like hours. "Well," Edward said, his voice suddenly lighter, almost playful, "I have to admit, Jonathan, you've got more nerve than I thought." He stepped closer, and my heart raced. Was he onto me? Was he going to call security? If he knew what I'd done, if he found out I'd accessed the files. Just then, the door behind Edward opened again, and Karen entered the room. Her eyes immediately narrowed when she saw me. "Edward," she said, her voice sharp, "what's going on?" Edward glanced back at her and then back at me. There was a brief, almost imperceptible hesitation in his gaze, and in that moment, I realized he didn't know I had the evidence. But I wasn't going to wait around for him to figure it out. I took a deep breath and made a split-second decision. "Tell me, Edward," I said, trying to keep my tone even, "how does it feel to know that everything you've been hiding is about to be exposed?" His face went cold, his smirk dropping as reality hit him. He knew I wasn't bluffing. For the first time, I saw a crack in his armor. But then Karen stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "You're not going anywhere, Jonathan," she said, her tone low and menacing. "Not with that file. Not with the truth." I took a step back, my mind racing. "I already have it. It's already out of your reach. You'll never be able to cover this up." Edward straightened up, his demeanor shifting from amused arrogance to something darker. "We'll see about that," he said, his voice dangerously calm. "But let me remind you, Jonathan, there's a price for crossing us." And just as he said that, Claire's face appeared in the doorway behind them, her expression one of pure panic. "Jonathan," she cried, rushing in with wide eyes. "We need to go now." Karen and Edward both turned to look at her, their expressions filled with disbelief. For a brief moment, everything seemed to stand still. Claire's eyes locked onto mine, pleading, and I knew then that it was time to act. The air in the server room was thick with tension. Claire's sudden appearance threw Edward and Karen off balance, just long enough for me to make my move. I could see it in their eyes, surprise, confusion, and perhaps even a flicker of doubt. But I didn't have the luxury of time to savor it. If I didn't act fast, I would lose everything. "Claire, what are you doing here?" Edward asked, his voice laced with venom. He was no longer pretending to be the cool, detached boss. Now he was angry, furious. "You're making a huge mistake." Claire didn't flinch. She stood her ground, looking directly at me. "We need to go, Jonathan," she repeated, more urgently this time. "They're going to." I didn't give her a chance to finish. My mind was already racing with the options. I had the file, but I couldn't let it be wiped away, not after all this. I needed to get out of there. I needed to make sure the truth got out before Edward or Karen could bury it. Without warning, I turned and bolted toward the door, pushing Claire to the side as I darted past her. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I could feel my pulse throbbing in my temples. I wasn't thinking about the consequences. I wasn't thinking about how Edward and Karen might retaliate. All I could think about was getting the evidence to safety. "Stop him," Edward shouted, his voice sharp and demanding. I heard the sound of footsteps behind me, and I knew they were coming after me. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. Claire was right behind me, her breath quick and panicked. "Jonathan, we have to hurry. If they get to the file, it's all over." We reached the elevator bank, and my fingers were trembling as I pressed the down button. The elevator doors dinged open, and I stepped inside, dragging Claire with me. "Get to the car. I'll meet you there," I said, my voice strained. I knew I couldn't trust anyone else, not yet, not with everything at stake. The doors slid shut, and the elevator began its descent. I glanced down at my phone. There was no time to waste. I needed to send the file to a secure server, one that would make it impossible for anyone to erase. Just as the elevator reached the ground floor, I saw the shadows of two figures, Edward and Karen, rushing toward it. I wasn't going to make it out in time. I pressed the button for the lobby doors to open, and the elevator shot down to the garage level. It felt like an eternity before the doors finally opened, and I sprinted toward the exit. Claire had already made it to the car. She was waiting for me with the engine running, her eyes frantic. I jumped into the passenger seat, slamming the door behind me. "Go!" I shouted. Without hesitation, Claire hit the gas, and we tore out of the parking garage, my heart still racing as I glanced in the rearview mirror. The sight of the Drexler Tech building fading into the distance gave me a sense of relief, but I knew it wasn't over yet. They would be coming for me, trying to make sure I never exposed what I'd uncovered. "Are you sure it worked?" Claire asked, her voice trembling slightly as she focused on the road ahead. "Did you send it?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the confirmation. The file had been uploaded. It was safe. "Yeah," I said, exhaling deeply. "It's done." We drove in silence for a few minutes, the weight of what we'd just done sinking in. The rush of adrenaline started to fade, and I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. But there was still a lot to figure out. Edward and Karen wouldn't stop here. They'd try to destroy me, to cover up their tracks. But now, I had leverage. I had the proof I needed, and I wasn't going to let them win. Finally, Claire broke the silence. "You know this isn't over, right?" she said quietly. "They're not going to just let it go. If they find out we're the ones who did this." "I know," I replied, my voice firm. "But now they can't do anything without looking guilty. They can't just sweep it under the rug anymore." I felt the weight of the decision we'd made settle in my chest. I wasn't just fighting for my job anymore. This was bigger. This was about exposing corruption, about showing the world the truth. The news hit harder than I expected. The details of the mismanaged funds, the falsified financial reports, and the illegal activities tied to Project Nexus spread like wildfire. The media was relentless, and every outlet seemed to be reporting new revelations about the scandal. What I hadn't expected, though, was how fast things escalated within Drexler Tech. Edward and Karen were fired in a dramatic board meeting. The story of their betrayal was all over the news, and it wasn't long before the authorities began investigating the full extent of their actions. The company was in chaos, scrambling to pick up the pieces. But for me, it was a bittersweet victory. I wasn't sure what I had expected, but seeing the people responsible for my downfall fall from grace felt hollow. I had lost so much in the process, and I was still uncertain about what my future would look like. The corporate world had a way of swallowing people up and spitting them out, and now I had become another casualty in its unforgiving machinery. But there was one thing that kept me going: the moral victory. I had stood up, faced the impossible, and fought back. And I hadn't done it alone. Days passed, and I found myself grappling with the aftermath. The storm had settled, but its effects were far-reaching. The entire company had been turned upside down, and Drexler Tech was a shadow of its former self. The media coverage continued, but now, it wasn't just about the scandal. It was about the people who were left behind. The employees who had lost their jobs. The clients who had been betrayed by the leadership they trusted. And, of course, the people who had been wronged in the process. Claire and I, surprisingly, hadn't been touched. The company, in its scramble for control, had decided to offer me a new position, one that was far more senior than anything I had ever imagined. It was their way of trying to patch up the damage. A way to make me feel like part of the solution. But I wasn't sure I wanted to stay. I found myself walking into the new office they had given me, the same office Edward once occupied. The views were impressive, but they held no appeal for me. It felt empty. The desk felt hollow, like a reminder of everything that had gone wrong. I stared out the window, watching the bustling city below, wondering if it was all worth it. Was the price of exposing the truth worth the destruction? I had lost so much in the process. My career, my sense of security, my trust in the system I'd once been a part of. Hey, Claire's voice broke through my thoughts. She stood in the doorway, her expression concerned. You all right? I turned to her, forcing a smile. Yeah, just thinking. She stepped inside and shut the door behind her. I know this is a lot, but you did the right thing, Jonathan. You brought the truth to light. I nodded, but her words didn't soothe the restless feeling in my chest. It doesn't feel that way. Everyone's gone, Claire. The people who caused this, gone. The system? It's still standing, still broken, and I don't know what to do with that. Claire crossed the room and sat down on the edge of the desk. You don't have to do anything, Jonathan. You're doing exactly what you need to do. You fought for what was right. And if they're offering you this position now, it's because you showed them they can't just steamroll over people. You've already won. I didn't know if she was right. But one thing was clear. I couldn't go back to the way things were. I had been through too much. The fight had changed me. The fight had shown me who I truly was and what I was willing to stand for. The phone on my desk buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. It was a message from a former colleague, someone I had trusted before everything had fallen apart. The message was short. I've got your back. We all do. It was a small gesture, but in that moment, it meant everything. The battle was far from over, but the war wasn't lost. I had allies, real ones. People who saw beyond the chaos and believed in something more than just corporate games and office politics. I think it's time to make some changes around here, I said quietly, looking back at Claire. She smiled, as though she already knew what I was thinking. I think you're ready to lead, Jonathan. I stood up from the desk, feeling a new sense of purpose. It wasn't just about taking down the corrupt. It wasn't just about revenge or vindication anymore. It was about creating something better, something that worked for the people, not against them. I knew it wouldn't be easy. I knew there would be hurdles ahead, but I was no longer afraid of the fight. The truth was on my side, and that made all the difference. As I walked out of the office, heading towards my new future, I didn't feel the weight of the past pressing down on me anymore. I was ready to move forward, ready to lead the way, and this time, I was going to do it on my terms.
During the morning rush hour, the train station was packed with people. What caught my eye, right in front of the ticket gates, was a woman who had been bumped into by a man walking with momentum, causing her to kneel on the ground. In the process, her glasses fell off her face and landed on the ground. A passerby who walked past her stepped on and crushed those glasses. The sound of a crack echoed in my ears. In shock from the scene unfolding before me, I quickly approached the woman and spoke to her. Are you okay? My name is John. I'm a 42-year-old single man who has never been popular with the ladies, having no girlfriend for as long as I've lived. Since graduating from college, I've always worked at the headquarters of a major travel agency, living a life without any significant promotions. I don't really have any hobbies, and my only pleasure is going to explore cafes on weekends. I don't have any friends to hang out with either, but I always thought I was pretty happy. The job is easy, my income is stable, and financially, I'm doing just fine. My parents back home are healthy, without any illnesses, living their lives in good spirits. However, a time came that threatened my peaceful life. There was a change in my department's management. The new boss was named Richard, 5 years older than me, and he had a terrible attitude, always picking on others. He always made fun of me for being single. Is that why you're over 40 and still can't get married? I guess even women can tell when a guy's incompetent at work. Every day, I was subjected to such constant snide remarks, and no matter what I did, I was always criticized. This wore me down mentally, and the little motivation I had for my job completely vanished. I'd admit I'm not the best at my job. I'm clumsy, slow, and I tend to make careless mistakes. It's hard for me to learn new things, and I just mechanically go through my daily tasks without being able to adapt to unexpected situations. Still, I believed I was doing my best in my own way, but to my boss, I seemed to be nothing but a source of irritation. Then, one day, I got a sudden call from my boss Richard, who was on a business trip in a remote area, perhaps somewhere like Nebraska. He was furious. "John, you gave me the wrong time for today's meeting, didn't you?" The client was livid. "What are you going to do about it?" "Wait, what are you talking about? You told me the meeting was at 4:00 p.m., right?" "It wasn't at 4:00 p.m. It was at 2:00 p.m. We were 2 hours late. Do you realize how embarrassing that was?" "But I clearly told you it was at 2:00 p.m. "Shut up. Just shut up, you useless fool." I remember clearly telling him it was at 2:00 p.m. It wasn't my mistake, but Richard wasn't willing to listen. "Because of you, we couldn't seal the deal with the client's hotel. We traveled all the way out here for nothing. This is on you, and you will be held responsible." Today's meeting was with a long-established luxury inn in a popular tourist destination. If we couldn't secure a contract with them, it would be a significant blow to our company. From that day on, the headquarters was bustling, searching for alternative inns and making changes to our plans. And just as Richard had said, in April of the following year, I was transferred from the headquarters to a branch in the suburbs. It's what you'd call a demotion. The branch was over an hour-and-a-half commute from my home, but I felt relieved to be away from Richard. Being a perpetual rank-and-file employee with no hopes of promotion, I thought a demotion wouldn't matter much. That's what I tried to convince myself of. I figured I'd get used to the customer service tasks I wasn't fond of over time. On my first day at the new job, I saw a woman fall at the station and approached her to help. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" The woman took my hand and slowly got up. "I can't find my glasses." "I can't see anything without them," she said with concern. But her glasses had been smashed on the ground. When I explained this to her, she looked distressed. "What am I going to do? The optician won't be available at this hour. I can't go to work like this." The woman was a beautiful individual, probably in her early 30s. "Do you have a spare pair of glasses at home?" I asked, and she nodded. "Yes, I have an old pair I used to wear." "In that case, let your workplace know you'll be late and head back home. I'll guide you to the taxi stand." "Really? Thank you so much for your kindness." She bowed deeply in gratitude. Afterward, I let her hold onto my arm and led her to the taxi stand in front of the station. She thanked me repeatedly, got into a taxi, and left. Darn it, I need to get to the office quickly today. ***, my first day at the new branch ***. I've been transferred to helping a woman with broken glasses at the station, and then being late was totally unexpected. I hardly arrived at my workplace and checked the time, luckily making it right before the start time. I quietly peeked inside and approached the oldest-looking guy in the room, though he only seemed to be in his mid-30s. He looked younger than me. "Hello, I'm John, transferred here from the headquarters." "Oh, you're John. I've heard about you. I'm Mike, the assistant manager. The branch manager will be a bit late today, Mike said, beginning to give me instructions. John, this is your desk. First, please familiarize yourself with all the brochures we have on display at the front. Understood, I replied. I followed his instructions, picking up each travel brochure from the front and began reviewing them at my desk. About an hour later, a woman entered the office. Good morning, Emily greeted her. Morning. Sorry I'm late, she responded. I looked up from my desk to see her face. Oh, I couldn't help but exclaim. Turns out the woman referred to as the manager was the same woman I helped at the station this morning, the one who broke her glasses. However, she didn't seem to recognize me. It made sense. She couldn't see my face back then without her glasses. Have we met somewhere before? She asked with a puzzled look after I unintentionally raised my voice. Ah, no. I mistook you for someone else. I blurted out the response without thinking. I see. I'm the branch manager, Emily. Nice to meet you, she said with a smile, her brown-framed glasses suiting her perfectly. And so my first day at the branch began. That evening, the staff threw a welcome party for me. We gathered around a table at a local bar near the office, toasted, and engaged in various conversations. Emily sat next to me. Honestly, having a boss who's probably a decade younger and a woman at that seemed a bit awkward. But once I got to know her, I found that Emily was a very polite woman who showed proper respect for her elders, even to a subordinate like me. At the same time, she didn't hold back when she needed to say something as a superior, making it easy to work with her. You work at a slow pace, but you are very meticulous, aren't you? With your calm and gentle way of speaking, I bet the customers like you, Emily complimented me. Even when I made small mistakes, she said, everyone makes mistakes. As long as you take responsibility and handle it properly, it's all good. She would encourage me, and I grew quite fond of her. She's a stark contrast to my former boss. She's a good person. Not just the manager, but all the staff were kind and cheerful, creating a warm and friendly work environment. Thanks to Emily, I gradually gained confidence, got used to the customer service tasks, and began to enjoy my work, seeing the satisfied faces of the customers I attended to, which gave me a pleasant sense of accomplishment. However, one day after work, I decided to grab a drink and a bite to eat. I stopped by a local tavern near the office by myself. Isn't that Emily and the assistant manager? Unaware of my presence, they were engaged in a conversation. If things keep going this way, our branch is headed for closure. We only have a month left until the headquarters deadline. Catching up now seems tough. Closure? What's going on here? I couldn't help but eavesdrop on their conversation. Emily, noticing me, seemed taken aback. John, did you hear our conversation? Emily, what do you mean by closure? What's going to happen to our branch, to all of us? Well, now that you've heard, it's only fair to fill you in, she sighed. I was invited to join their table. The truth is our branch has the lowest sales in the entire country. The headquarters told us that if we don't move up to at least the top 20 by the end of next month, they'll close our branch. Top 20. That's a tall order. Our company has over 50 branches nationwide. Jumping from the very bottom to more than halfway up the rankings seems almost impossible. With these thoughts, I looked at Emily's face, and she looked as if she was on the verge of tears. I love everyone at our branch so much, but if we close down, everyone will be scattered apart. I just can't bear that thought, she said, tears welling up in her eyes. Seeing her like that, I couldn't help but muster all my courage and say, "Don't worry, Emily. We still have time. Let's aim for a spot in the top 20 sales. First, we need to discuss this with everyone and pull together as a team." You're right, John. We should definitely talk to everyone. The next day, Emily addressed the entire branch staff during the morning meeting, seeking their cooperation. If anyone has a good idea that could increase our sales, please don't hesitate to suggest it." Upon hearing Emily's words, Mike quickly raised his hand. "Emily, how about we reconsider the layout of the store? Change the layout? Well, it might be worth a try. How about rearranging the brochures to make them more visible? What if we adjust the direction of the lighting? It feels a bit dim as it is. How about creating handwritten display signs? What about distributing flyers in front of the train station?" Ideas were pouring in from the staff. A few days later, the store was noticeably brighter and livelier. Could it be due to the flyers we've been handing out near the train station? More customers started to visit our store. If things keep going this way, our sales might see a significant boost. I've been putting in overtime every day. After getting home, I read potentially helpful books to increase sales, and I researched on the internet. I even gave up my days off to help distribute the flyers. This was the first time I'd ever been so consumed with my job, but it didn't feel like a burden. On the contrary, every day felt exciting, striving towards a goal. It's such a joyous feeling. For the 20 years I spent at the headquarters, I dealt with the monotony of the same tasks every day, never feeling the satisfaction or motivation. The days felt so dull. But now, I wanted to give my all for Emily and everyone else. One day, a couple visited our store. Those folks were the honeymooning couple I had assisted before. "We brought back a gift for you, John, as a token of our appreciation," they said. They were customers who had difficulty deciding on their honeymoon destination. They had disagreements and even almost canceled their plans. It was quite a challenging situation. Thanks to you, we returned safely. Our honeymoon was fantastic. Thank you so much. The couple looked genuinely happy and grateful. The German sweets they gifted were shared among all the staff at our branch. I'd never felt so appreciated at work before. I was so overwhelmed with joy that I felt tears welling up. I decided then and there to continue serving all our customers wholeheartedly. A month later, the national sales rankings were announced. Our branch ranked 25th. We couldn't break into the top 20, but it was a significant improvement from being at the bottom. However, the business world is tough, and rules are rules. The next morning during the staff meeting, Emily spoke. "We've officially been notified by the headquarters today. This branch will be closing at the end of this month." The staff were visibly deflated, with some even breaking into tears. "I believe most of you will be transferred to the headquarters or other branches. HR should contact you about your new placements soon," the manager continued with a somber expression. "Everyone, I know it's tough, but let's keep our chins up. Going from the bottom to the 25th rank is an incredible achievement. It's a testament to the hard work we all put in together. Let's take pride in what we've accomplished." Hearing the manager's words, the staff exchanged glances. "We did work hard, didn't we?" "Absolutely. It's an amazing accomplishment. How about we all go out tonight and celebrate?" "Sounds great," the staff chattered in agreement. I felt a great sense of accomplishment. The past month of working together and giving our best was fulfilling and fun. I'm not sure which branch I'll be transferred to next, but no matter where I go, I'll always cherish the memories of my time here and continue to give my best. On my way home from the celebratory drinks that night, Emily approached me. "John, can we have a private conversation for a moment?" "Oh, of course. I don't mind." The two of us entered a nearby bar and took seats at the counter. "John, I'll get straight to the point. Would you like to return to the headquarters? If you do, I can speak with HR to arrange a transfer for you." She looked intently into my eyes as she said this. "No, I don't wish to go back to the headquarters," I replied without hesitation. "Oh, may I ask why?" "Yes, I really enjoy interacting with customers directly. I believe I'm suited for customer service. It's a revelation I had only after coming to this branch." "I see. So you prefer to continue working at a branch then?" It seems she was concerned about me, perhaps thinking I was transferred here from the headquarters as some sort of demotion. Thank you. I appreciate your concern. Emily gave a shy smile in response. I'm truly grateful for everything you've done, John. Remember when you suggested that we break the news of the closure to everyone? That decision fostered a sense of unity among the staff and contributed to the increase in sales. Regardless of the final outcome, we all did great work together, and it was fulfilling. Well, I didn't do anything special. On the contrary, it was thanks to you, Emily, that I enjoyed my job so much. At the headquarters, I had a rough time with superiors. I told her about the supervisor at the headquarters, Richard. Despite being older and still single, he mocked me constantly, bullied me, and even falsely accused me of mistakes I didn't make, leading to my transfer. That sounds awful. You must have had a tough time, she said with sympathy. Then she looked at me with a determined expression and said, John, how about we get back at Richard? What? Can we really do that? Yes, actually. I'm the CEO's daughter. Right now, I'm here at the branch for training, but I plan to assist my father at the headquarters and learn the ropes of being the CEO. I couldn't do anything about the branch closure this time, but I do have some influence over HR. I was taken aback by her revelation. I had no idea she was the daughter of the CEO. Let's report Richard's bullying to HR. There should be some sort of action taken against him. I nodded deeply in agreement with her words. On our way back, as we walked side by side towards the station, she slipped and almost fell. In a split second, I reached out and supported her. Oh, thank you. No worries. It would be a hassle if your glasses broke again. She looked puzzled at my comment. Huh. How do you know about that? Oops, she hadn't realized I was the one who helped her that day. Could it be? Were you the one who helped me back then, John? Well, yes. So it was you. Oh my, you should have told me. My glasses were off and I couldn't see clearly. I'm sorry I didn't recognize you. It's okay, but I'm glad I know now. I always wanted to properly thank the person who helped me that day. I was initially hesitant, but due to Emily's insistence, we decided to go out for a meal together. She said she wanted to treat me as a thank you for that day. Later, I was transferred to a different branch. Surprisingly, Emily was transferred there as well. Afterward, I heard that Richard from the headquarters was sent to a strict subsidiary company, rumored to be a kind of exile, thanks to Emily reporting his bullying. On the other hand, my accomplishments at the branch were recognized and I was promoted to a department head. It's almost time for our reservation. Let's go. Today is the first time I'm having a meal alone with Emily. Even though I'm nervous, I'm really looking forward to it and hope this will be an opportunity to deepen our relationship. I'm very content with my new job, where I find the work enjoyable and fulfilling.